Okay, just kidding. Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. Can you imagine being free and still being in bondage 2 years later?
2 years later.
Not knowing that you're actually free now.
South Africans, Nigerian, we had the Barbados, we all had to stand together.
Yeah.
That's the only way that we all able to grow. That's Amandla. Welcome to Chilling With The Chaplins. I'm LJ with the one and only, my lovely wife, Lady C. Yes, you know we're about that vibe each and every week. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got me. So we would like to say, welcome to Sunday Funday, where we're all about learning, being informative, and having fun. And yes, and so this week we want to talk about the similarities of two holidays that are in this month. And so my wife is just going to give you a brief introduction, just to talk about it a little bit before we go into it.
Awesome. First of all, guys, I just want to, applaud LJ for coming on and doing this show, this session today. He's feeling under the weather, but he's doing great, isn't he? Thank you, LJ. Listen, we're all about just giving you that content and being consistent. So even if we're sick, we gotta do it. The show must go on. So yeah, we will be talking about June 16, which is a South African holiday that will be happening, of course, on June 16. And we'll be talking about
June 19, which is the American holiday for Black Americans.
Okay. So it's only celebrated by Black Americans?
Oh, yeah, it's celebrated for everybody, but
in America.
Yeah, in America.
Okay, right. So that caught me up a bit, because what I want to say is both these holidays are federal holidays, public holidays.
Yes.
Which means people who they can claim this as a day off and still get paid for it, right? So it's they both national holidays, and they kind of have some similarities here and there, because they both are both have major historical moments in the history of Black people. One, of course, in South Africa, being young Black people who protested against the apartheid regime, and in America, it was the Black people who are now being told they are finally free in a country that they call their own as well.
Yes.
So these both also just remind us, these holidays, about the liberation of Black people, of how hard they've worked to be at where we are right now. We did not just get this liberty. We had to work really hard for it. People died, people became slaves, people were abused. It was just not an easy road to be here. So I believe it's the best time to celebrate it and to commemorate it. And we thought, let's just rightfully give it its due diligence as well. Of course, we won't go into deep details about both these holidays, but we just wanted to highlight a few things, how they started and what they're all about. So let's hear about Juneteenth. Where did the name derive from?
Yes, June 19. What did the name arrive from? Well, it is celebrated on June 19th. The name is a combination of the word June and 19.
Is this because Americans don't want to name things? Just easy, like how they call the 4th of July the 4th of July? Just me pulling Americans' legs again. But yeah, think about it. June,
you got jokes.
I do. But seriously, you couldn't think of another name like Independence to the second, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we do. It's the June 19th, also called Freedom Day, or
I've never heard Freedom Day though.
Or Black Independence Day.
I've heard the Black Independence, but Freedom Day, nah. I think you're trying to copy us, because we have Freedom Day too.
No.
Okay, just kidding. Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. But
and so I would like to say, before I was interrupted, now. This is 157 years old holiday celebration.
So this year will be 157 years. Okay.
This year is 157-year-old celebrating the emancipation of African American from slavery in the U.S. And so.
So that's what Juneteenth is about. just celebrating
Yes.
slaves
Slavery.
coming out of all slaves, because I remember it was done in sections.
Yes.
So all slaves being freed.
Yes.
Okay. So anything you want to add? When I think I know. So any history around that? When, who signed it in, and which president made it official, and when was it actually? So why the 19th? Why the 19th of June?
Well, yeah, Abraham Lincoln has signed it. Now, here's the thing, right? Abraham has signed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know, and this is 157 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we know on June 19, 1865,
Mm-hmm.
enslaved black people have been declared free by the emancipation, right?
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. The emancipation,
Mm-hmm. What's the emancipation? It's just a piece of paper that they signed.
yeah, that Abraham Lincoln and his people signed.
Mm-hmm.
It actually went in effect 2 years earlier, more than 2 years earlier. It happened January 1st, 1863.
Okay.
But that part of the world didn't find out till June 19, 1865.
So which part of the world is that?
Texas.
Just the state of Texas.
Just the city of Texas.
The city or the state?
Just Texas.
State, okay.
State, yeah.
Yeah. So why was Texas the last state to find out? Do you know?
I'm not sure why, but yeah.
But did it have like the most slaves in the country?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not sure. So you got me there.
Okay. So, but the main point there is that that those are the last slaves to know
about
that they free. Actually.
Yes. And it was over 200. It was over 250,000.
That's a lot.
Slaves who finally found out that it was free, but it was like
they had been
shot.
free already 2 years ago.
Yeah. And that's the sad part.
Yeah.
250,000.
They were good at hiding it for 2 years.
2 years.
That's incredible.
But you gotta remember, blacks didn't have TV. They didn't really have TV
They
back
worked
then.
them. They worked them so hard in the field.
They was in the field. When they came for the field, they went straight home, ate and whatever, take care of them family.
Yeah. Can you imagine being free and still being in bondage 2 years later?
2 years later.
Not knowing that you're actually free now. That's incredible. And I guess that's why it was such an important day for them to start celebrating.
Yes, to start celebrating.
Because slavery was not a nice thing.
It wasn't a nice thing.
We're going to share some pictures as well and just showing what the slaves actually went through, working the fields and picking cotton.
Cotton, yes.
What else did they do?
Cotton and whatever you can think of.
Yeah.
They picked, well, not whatever you can think of, but cotton and vegetables.
Was the most famous one.
Cotton was the most famous one. But yeah, they worked in the fields.
Your mom worked in the fields too.
Yes.
But not as a slave.
Not as she was a sharecropper.
What is a sharecropper?
It's another word of modern day slavery.
Ah.
So instead of slavery, now they just call it sharecroppers.
Do they still exist now?
Probably so.
So what are they shearing? What is a cropper?
Basically, you work in the field. So
because when she was working in the field, it was no longer slavery.
No, it was no longer slavery.
Black people still worked in the field.
Yes, black people still working. And back then they didn't pay. Now if they work in the field, you're gonna get paid minimum wage.
Right.
But back then, when my mother was in the fields, her mother and father, they didn't make nothing. They probably making 20 cents a day. I heard a story that my uncle and them, they was making like 25 cents a day, 15 cents a day.
That's incredible.
So how can you pay for anything with 25 cents a day? Yeah, that's crazy.
So they were emancipated, but they were still really oppressed.
Really oppressed, yeah. And you have to stay on their farm to live. You couldn't be on your own because you ain't making no money.
Right.
And so you say we're free, but you didn't give us an opportunity back then to.
So when was the that thing that you spoke about before, that they promised them land and
40 acres and mule.
yeah, during the emancipation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it never happened.
It never happened. I think some people got it, but not everyone.
Yeah. Oh well, let's jump over to June 16. So this was a holiday formerly known as Soweto Day because it started, excuse me, in the township of Soweto, which is one of the biggest townships or hoods in South Africa. And it started with black school children, high school mostly, but some primaries as well, because the first victim that was shot was a 13-year-old child who was Hector Peterson. And his picture was taken where one of the boys, all the boys was carrying him, and his older sister was running beside him. We're going to see actually in the picture below.
What?
Yeah, 13-year-old child was shot by the apartheid police, you know, because when the children were protesting, you know, the police were of course there, the apartheid police, and of course a black child was nothing to them. And it was easy for them to just throw tear gases and start, you know, engaging with ammunition, children not even carrying anything to defend themselves. You know, it was a peaceful demonstration or protest, but the police made it very violent. And hundreds of children died on that day, or shot dead. And because of that moment, it then spread throughout the country, because it initially started in Johannesburg, or I should rather say in Gauteng, which was in the township of Soweto.
I see you put yourself right there.
Why? Gauteng, yeah. Because I know Johannesburg now that it's a city, it's still the name of the city, but Gauteng is actually the province or the state.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of children died during that time, but not only that, property was destroyed. It was just a bloodbath. It was a massacre of these children who were actually fighting not to be taught in the oppressor's language, which was Afrikaans back then. You can just imagine that. How funny is this? Because this had started 2 years ago, and the kids soon realized, isn't there a paradox there? Like it started 2 years ago, it was put in place that they must learn in Afrikaans, and 2 years later, they then decided, hold on, this is too difficult. How are we being taught everything in Afrikaans? And the Afrikaners, you know, which was the white minority who was in charge back then, thought they should teach them in their language so that they don't have to, try to learn the majority's language. So I speak my language as the minority, so that you hear my instructions to you as my slave kind of situation. You know, they were teaching us their language so that we understand them. I was forcefully taught Afrikaans as well when I went to school as a second language. The only thing I remember is the man kap die hout.
What that means?
The man chopped the wood.
The man chopped the wood?
Yeah. It was one of the things that most people know in Afrikaans, my age, because it was one of the things that we were taught how to construct a sentence. So that term, most people who grew up in my time know the man kap die hout. And another thing was verbeteringen, because verbeteringen meant corrections. Correct. So you see how this thing was installed in us? I still remember this.
Make sure you cut my wood and make sure you...
Yeah, like corrections. I would always, you know, not me only, most black children would always get it wrong and go ahead and do corrections. You know, in school where you got that wrong, go and do corrections. So the teacher would say, go and do verbeteringen. So that I never forgot. That's how much they wanted us to ingrain this language in us. Some people still speak it fluently. Some people, black people or colored people, you know, the mixed race, they adopted it as their language as well. But it was mainly for Afrikaner people who were the minority of the country, and they wanted to teach this Afrikaans alongside English. But English was gaining more prominent because it was becoming an international language. And the children were like, we'd rather get taught in English, a language that where we can benefit from, instead of Afrikaans, which we're only gonna, you know, benefit us within South Africa. So rather give us an international language, which was English then, instead of Afrikaans. It was, you know, I think it was a solid case, right? And the kids were saying, with no more Afrikaans, let's be taught in our language, or in this English. And after that, the kids were shot because that apartheid government did not want to hear anything. Right. So anything you want to say about Juneteenth? Oh, of course, as you've mentioned, that Juneteenth is, you guys are celebrating how many years?
157 years.
157 years. Whereas June 16, this is going to be the 46th year.
46 years.
46th year since the uprising. It was called the Soweto Uprising. Now it's known as Youth Day, but people still refer to it as June 16 because it happened on June 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why Juneteenth is on June 19 because
the
announcement in Texas happened on June 19.
Not the signing.
Not the signing. The announcement to the Texas people happened on June 19, and that's why it's called Juneteenth.
Yeah. So a few takeaways for me for these two holidays is that, you know, together Youth Day and Juneteenth remind us of the struggles that Black people have gone through and still go through till today. I think it's one common holiday, even though for you guys it's slavery and us it's Black children who are fighting against, you know, how do I explain apartheid? It's another version of slavery, really. It was an improved version of slavery, in fact.
A better way of doing it for them?
Improved way of slavery. What do I mean by that? Is that the Afrikaners or that minority government took it a notch higher. In the people's own country. You take you want to enslave them a notch higher. So what you think was bad in America for Black people was twice as bad in South Africa for Black people. And they called that apartheid. So, but the point is, it was both a nasty way of treating people, you know, both apartheid and slavery. And both the US and South Africa continue to grapple, even today, with rampant police violence against Black people. Black people are still dying in numbers just because of your skin color. How sadly is that? And not just Black people, but people of color, because even the Spanish people, even, you know, people in terms of South Africa, you know, the colored nation, which is the mixed race, the Indians, the Asians, if you are not white, you are still considered less of, I believe, in both countries, right? And Black students in both countries are still calling for equal and decolonized education. Equal in meaning, if you go to a Black school in a Black neighborhood, the education that you get is still not the same as education that you get in a white school in a suburb area. In both countries. Hence,
why you think you get the broken English that I have?
Right, that's what I was about to say. And it's not just in America, by the way, South Africans as well. You can tell a person who went to a multiracial school and a person that went to a township school, if they had not done anything to develop themselves personally, like being avid readers, because some people went to township schools, but they speak very good English because they went the extra mile, they went for extra English lessons, they read a lot, because reading improves your vocabulary. Watching movies, you know, English movies, and not just watching it for the watching, but watching it to learn the English language. I know a family friend who, she is so good in English, you'd think she went to a multiracial school or private school, but she used to read the dictionary from front cover to cover. Year after year, she'd buy different dictionaries, and her vocabulary is superb.
Yes. Now, I do want to say this too about the school, because I always talk about the education system. Because where I'm from, now I say the education system is bad, it sucked in the Black community, but I do have to say not all teachers is bad. Because you do have some teachers that is in the Black community that do care about the students.
But not many.
You're right, and it's not that many. But the few, I don't want to say lucky ones, but the few people that do get that teachers was more fortunate.
But then you don't get them in all grades.
You're right. That's the thing, because that teacher might only teach 6th grade or 5th grade. So if you got a chance, if you got that teacher, because maybe they have maybe 4th grade and 5 5th grade. So if you got that one good teacher and one of your grades, that actually taught that great grammar, then you one of the fortunate ones. But not every teacher was great back then, but there was a few good apples.
So you're saying back then, what about now? Because I see this
I don't know about now.
But I still see it going on, because I interact with a lot of African Americans, even, younger than us, and you find that the English that's being spoken is still shaky.
Yeah, I think it's a lot better now, but it's still, it's
but the differences are really big for somebody who's gone to a multiracial, because it's even that goes with when you're looking for a home, you're looking for a place with a school district that's good. That shouldn't even be, because I feel like everybody should have equal education.
Yeah.
Not if you're in this area you're getting poor education, if you're in this area you're getting good education. Same thing as in South Africa. Trust and believe. If you go to a school in this area, you're bound to get good education, and of course you're paying big bucks for that. If you're going to this area, you are bound to get poor education, because probably you're not paying as much. Because schools in townships, they're not free, but they pay a fraction, compared to schools which we refer to as multiracial schools. So it's actually sad. In fact, back then they had what is called the Bantu education, which was education that was segregated just for black people. And of course there was lack of textbooks that were given to them, or old textbooks, or past textbooks. They would not go in line with the white schools. The white school would get new textbooks every year. Their syllabus would improve every year. Like, care would be taken when it came to the white people, but care would not be taken when it came to the black people. And it's so sad that still exists even now.
Yes. Now, I do want to say this as well.
Although it's not called Bantu education, but there's still a lot of segregation.
I also want to say this as well. Even though we're probably talking about June 15 and June 19,
June 16.
June 16 and June 19, and we went off to the education system. But I do want to say this, that in America too, the reason why it's like that too, because every school get a budget. And so in that budget, a lot is, in the black community, most of their budget focus more on security. So all their money mostly going to security.
Security of what? Of the school.
Of the school, making sure
no drugs coming.
No drugs, guns, weapons. They have metal detectors.
So do you think they still get the same amount of money?
Yeah, everyone have a budget. Now in the white communities, they mostly focus on books. They don't really have metal detectors. You don't really see metal detectors in the white school.
And why is that?
Because they feel like
it's safer.
It's a safer community. In the black community, they know it's like drugs, gangs, and all that kind of stuff.
That's actually a sad,
So that's the reason why. And then another thing too, and those type of communities also, they also probably get donations because the families have money.
They're wealthy.
So if you don't, if you donate to the school, that's now, you could donate to a school and to a Pacific school and say, I want this school to get this. And they have to whatever you donate to, they have to give it to that school and to that cause. So so that's the big difference too as well.
But I still think that government can do something, because you can clearly see the difference between people who went to certain schools and to certain schools.
Yeah.
We still have a long way to go. If you look at that this happened 46 years ago in South Africa, but there's still so much problems. And Afrikaans is still being taught, by the way, in some schools, but it's by choice now, it's not by force.
It's not by force.
And you're not being taught other subjects in Afrikaans. You are taught Afrikaans as a language. Just like, most people, like myself, I did English as first language, as my first language. Although English is not my first language, probably that's why I speak fluent English.
And you went to a good school as well.
And I went to a good school, thank God, for my grandmother. And so then I was taught Afrikaans in second language because I did go to a white school. So, you know, of course, Afrikaans is going to be my second language. And then I was taught my own language as a third language. Isn't that sad? And I only got to learn my language, I believe it was the 12th grade or the 11th grade, somewhere there. But like towards the end of high school, that's when I got to learn my language, right? Yeah. So I think we've come to the end of our show, but I hope that we gave you great highlights in terms of these two great holidays. Enjoy them as we celebrate them for, you know, we celebrate and commemorate the struggles of what the black children went through. Hence, we are no longer taught in Afrikaans. So what that means is that they won the struggle. You know, we ended up not being taught in that language. Excuse me, and in America, slaves are free now. There are no slaves that we know of, because we don't know what happens, you know, in some areas. But we also know that there's modernized slavery now. They've made it another form of slavery. But the actual buying, trading of slaves is no longer publicly available. Let me rather say that. If they're doing it, they're probably doing it underground somehow.
They're probably doing it
underground somehow.
You got the trafficking.
Trafficking. Yeah,
human trafficking.
Because that's another form of slavery, to be honest.
Because they're selling humans.
They're selling humans.
And they're selling for different things.
I think it's worse now because it's also sexual slavery and all that. But anyways, we thank you for tuning in. We really wish you a happy June 16
and June 19, and let's always continue to remember our history. Let's continue to always support one another, and we came a long way. And for us to continue to grow and continue to, you know, to continue to improve the black race, it's up to us to stand with each other. It doesn't matter who you are, black, African American, South Africans. African, Nigerian, we had to, Barbados, we all had to stand together so that we could continue to improve. That's the only way that we all able to grow. Amandla. That's the only way.
And Amandla means power to the people.
Power to the people. That's the only way, you know, we can have the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King saw, and that we still don't have the crab in the back bucket. We all have to stand by each other. Don't see, oh, she better than she thinks she better. No. Let her or him, if they doing something to get ahead, help them to get ahead. That's the only way we're all gonna grow, because they can come back and help somebody else and just keep going down until everybody enough for us is there, and we able to take control of different things, where we can have a Black Wall Street, where we can start building black schools and better schools and better communities, and for our black for the black race. So let's continue to support one another. Let's continue to keep our history alive, because we do have history, and never forget where we come from, because there was a struggle, and our grandmothers and grandmamas and all that kind of stuff they went through so that we can have a better life. And so we just thank you today, you know.
And don't forget to subscribe, right? Subscribe to our channel. We are almost there. So we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're hoping by the time we air this, we actually have 1,000 subscribers. So keep subscribing and keep sharing it. Also, we'd love to be friends with you on social media. Please follow me at LadySeason1 on Instagram, and follow LJ at
Get Inspired by LJ on Instagram as well as YouTube.
Yes, and also you can follow us on all social media platforms at Chilling with the Chaplins. But also you can tune in on our audio platforms on
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify.
Yes, and so we look forward to seeing you there. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars.
5 stars, yes.
And leave a comment. And we've come to the end, so have a good one.
We'll
Take care.
See you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.